Dominion, and thank you for your awesome SAC department for pulling this together and treating me really well. So they asked me to, I mean, obviously I can talk about, especially with Q&As, I can totally talk about anything you guys want to talk about. And the answer to probably a lot of people's question is no, I'm not. I don't have Shia LaBeouf on speed dial. But we're very cordial, and we love each other very much. When we see each other, he calls me sis, and I'm very happy for him. Very happy for him. But yeah, they asked me to talk about the evolution of TV culture, and especially in the 90s, which I obviously lived through, and this is the 90s week, which I think is so cool that you guys are doing that. And it makes me kind of feel old, but whatever, I'm still 28, so I got some time. So yeah, so how many of you are in sort of communications, media, film, show of hands? Like, so yeah, there's a few of you. And then the rest of you engineering, I mean, just like what's the, yeah, I see these girls in front. Well, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, if you guys are curious about the entertainment industry at all, you know, I feel like I have a perspective on it. And so I kind of have a little guide over here. Yeah, I have a little visual presentation too. Oh, visual. So, yeah, no, I think it's wonderful when, you know, people like SAC or anything want to have a conversation about, you know, the entertainment industry, not just for the capitalistic game, but, you know, to make a scholarly approach, you know, to observe the infrastructure and the trends of the entertainment industry over time. Evolution of TV culture. A little background on me. Maybe you guys know, maybe you guys don't. He did a great job of explaining my bio. But you know, I've been a SAG member for 2 decades. And believe it or not, you know, at 28, by many people's standards, I'm a relic. Yeah, a lot of people call me a lifer, and that's a term given to a lot of people who've grown up in the industry and are strung out. I was lucky to, you know, grow up with renowned peers. Scarlett Johansson was in my graduating class, and obviously Shia is a huge star. You know, alongside people like them, I learned a lot, and I've been blessed to work throughout a spectrum of, you know, entertainment mediums for an extended amount of time. And the reason I tell you this is not to boast at all, but just sort of to qualify my upcoming observations about the industry as a whole. So, and some may wonder if I'm jaded or anything like that, negative wise. No, I'm not. I'm here to refute that notion and point out that I feel like I actually have a secret to living your life in the entertainment industry in a healthy way. And I think it'll trickle down with everything I'm about to discuss, which is pretty much, it's all about reinvention. So I feel like that's useful for anybody, even if you're not studying film. Reinvention is kind of a really important tool, especially in this globalized world that we're living in, when things are just like coming at you so quickly and the odds are against you coming out of college with employment rates. But you have to keep your head up and kind of be fierce about how you're going to approach branding yourself and, you know, moving ahead. So let's see. So that's the overall scope of what we're going to talk about. Give you my background. Moving faster than I thought. So trends. So to say that trends have changed since I started acting in the early 90s is an understatement. And you know, it would be unfair to suggest this, but it's almost true. I think you guys, your generation, understands this more than anyone that I'm in. We've seen more change in the entertainment industry since the invention of the TV in the last like 10 to 15 years. And the reason I say this is threefold. I'll give you 3 examples. Pre-production, production, and post-production is pretty much encapsulates the entertainment industry as a whole. It's the language of which, or just like, you know, the conveyor belt of what's happening at any given time for any given project, TV or film. So, you know, pre-production, I'm not sure if, you know, anyone, if I'm too technical, you can raise your hand or shout out or whatever you want to do. But pre-production is anything that has to do with funding a movie or a project, casting, you know, deciding where you're going to shoot, locations, all that stuff. even developing the script and pitching it to an executive and getting it greenlit so that you can actually shoot it. So that's generally the definition of pre-production. It's definitely been altered in various ways, making just a simple, good idea so much more important than it's ever been before since the 90s. Gone are the days where there's going to be uncalculated or exorbitant financial risks on movies or TV or anything. That just doesn't happen anymore. People just don't throw money at things. And in today's world, branding, like I mentioned before, it's become so vital that even before you walk in the room to discuss an idea that you might have to an executive, your pitch has to be seamless. It's extremely, extremely competitive. The reason being, there's so many avenues to showcase and make money off a single property that if you can't appeal to what they call the 4-quadrant demographic, I don't know if anyone has heard that term before, but it's basically an industry term used to explain men and women in different age ranges. And if you can't do that, and if your idea isn't going to sell or be syndicated internationally, then you're probably not going to get a green light on it. More than anyone, I think I know about this idea of synergy, and that comes along with branding. Not only I was the first Disney Channel actress to simultaneously be on a series, a cartoon, and an MOW, which, does anyone know what that means, MOW? Movie of the Week, awesome. But then I went on to work for 14 different companies under the Disney umbrella. From the cruise lines to Hyperion, I had a book deal with them, to an album, which is the Hollywood record side. They have so many different things that I really came to understand what synergy meant in a company like that, in a conglomerate. I don't even know if you can call it. It's almost like they're monopolizing everything since Star Wars. I was one of the many teams, that they have used, not exploited, but used and utilized rather, to grow their company. Even Stevens, and talking of trends, even Stevens had a musical episode that had. I'm not going to sing the song. Oh man, I'm getting so technical. 1969. Thank you. But anyway, so that musical episode was the first anyone had ever done it, and then 2 years, 3 years later, High School Musical, and then 1 year later, Glee. So more and more people are looking at this synergy, this synergistic approach, and this cross-marketing of their talent. Nickelodeon has done it, where basically they grow their talent and then push them onto MTV, and Disney's doing it where they then push their talent onto ABC Family. They grow up and they stay within the system so that they can, essentially benefit from the synergy. And also too, you can see it outside of these kind of this TV world. Like Will Ferrell always uses the same group of people in all his movies, or the Funny or Die videos, or the Lonely Island guys with SNL videos. They always use, and the cameos and all that stuff is new. That wasn't around, 10 years ago. That just wasn't happening. Okay, so funding. Sorry about that. Funding definitely has changed. And if any of you are in, the finance side, or you're studying finance, or you're studying, you never know if I feel like this information could help you just understanding the current state of affairs with the entertainment industry. Nowadays there's just so many ways of getting your series made. If a network just gives it the axe, or whatever. I remember there was a petition going around for Impossible to come back, and then they eventually did. I think the same thing happened with Family Guy. So it can happen, but generally if it doesn't happen and you don't even get a green light to begin with, there's so many different ways of doing it. It just wasn't like that 10 to 15 years ago. Talk about trends. You can do it to the web, or you can produce it yourself, and you can get it straight to DVD, or on Redbox, or whatever you want to do. And something else, have you heard of tax credits? tax credits? Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a general term, but primarily the way it's been affecting the entertainment industry with particular states like Louisiana, it's really afforded people to pay less to get more. And the benefit for the state is that they're employing people within the state and, generating income and money in the economy, stimulating the economy, state for state. And yeah, I mean, they're getting back as much as 35% when they put their money in, and that's coming off the budget. So that's definitely new, definitely. I remember I shot a movie in Louisiana called, gosh, it was Campus Confidential. Did you guys ever see that one? Campus Confidential? And it used to be that, like Cadet Kelly, I'm sure you guys have heard of Cadet Kelly. This is an innovative way of me spouting off my resume. But yeah, I shot Cadet Kelly in Canada. And Canada used to be a big place for people to do these location things. And a lot of businesses leaving California and New York because it's just too expensive. And there's not those tax credits. So things are changing fundamentally in the pre-production world of the entertainment industry. So I'll move on to the production side of things. Try not to bore you guys with all this technical stuff. It's okay, cool. Yeah, so you guys know that film is pretty much done, right? Like film actually is all gone to digital. Did you guys all know that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's blown my mind. I mean, especially after the earthquake in Japan, Fuji lost all of their ability to produce film, which was already stopping, wasn't even being ordered. I think Technicolor is now only doing digital stuff and has sold all of their, or demolished all of their film, stuff, the way they dyed the film, and they did it all by hand, and now all of that is done, which is a huge, huge trend that's definitely spread in the last 10 to 15 years as well. And interesting enough, it's really divided Hollywood into, at least the creative side of Hollywood, into two factions. One are like the purists, that are like, well, film just looks better, it's just beautiful. Like, did anyone see Moonrise Kingdom? I feel like that was on film. I'm pretty sure that was film. And you can tell a difference between that versus something like Act of Valor, which did pretty well in the box office, but that was shot with what they call a Canon 5D, and that's basically a glorified still camera. And I've shot on it. I'm actually directing now, which I can talk about later if you're interested, but it's really fun. And working with a camera like that is so easy. It's really small. It's like literally like the size of that camera, maybe a little bit bigger. And the quality of it is just so beautiful that you just don't need the money that you used to need 10 to 15 years ago to make a movie. Anyone can make a movie. Anyone can put it on, and see if Tosh Point picks it up. So yeah, let's see. But yeah, so that's a prominent trend, and it really is changing everything. Because if a market, and by market I mean the entertainment industry here, is governed by demand, and demand is governed by expectation, then between the low cost of digitally producing things and the tax credits, I have a feeling that this is the way that movies are going to be made for a long, long time. So that's definitely, that trend's not going away. It's not a fad. So yeah, let's see. Let's see. No, we're still in production. Sorry about that. So similarly kind of crazy to me is that cable is now king. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I mean, back when Even Stevens was on, it pretty much, the reason why it was popular was because the shows were good. And that was why it was so cool, and why it had such a lasting impact, I think. I mean, it's funny because sometimes people say it was like the Saved by the Bell of I guess their generation from the 80s or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a remarkable show. I mean, Shia won an Emmy for it, and we got very close to a lot of awards. But it's different now. I mean, cable is a big deal. It didn't used to be a big deal. And now networks are just not bringing the numbers that they used to bring. all they have is like maybe one show that's a live action show or whatever. Like New Girl on Fox is big, but then it's like they have one gem. Each of them just has like one show that they really can put out there, and the rest of it's reality. Like the rest of it's Bachelor or American Idol or something that's, you know, a competitive alternative programming is what they call it. So, you know, I think too that the success, the reason why this is, why cable is now king, is because, you know, the success of The Sopranos on HBO and how long that ran, and then on top of that, my personal favorite, Sex and the City. Love that show. I think that really changed people's minds to cable, because cable. I mean, if you guys remember when you were growing up, if you can remember, like cable was not the way it is now. Like there were something on AMC, like Mad Men, was just not gonna. It was just never gonna exist.
Film is now secondary culture.
Secondary culture?
Film is now secondary to cable culture.
Yeah, but more importantly, with this point, it's network TV versus cable, because it's just crazy to me that cable is basically you're gonna get more A-list actors to do a show on a cable network than on a primetime network now, which is unheard of. So yeah, but it's interesting too, like with the branding aspect of something like Sex and the City, where I felt like those movies they did overexposed the brand completely. It's somewhat cyclical, because then now they're doing the CW show, The Carrie Diaries, for, you know, a younger demographic, and it's kind of interesting the way they, kind of like Disney, but Disney does it differently, where they just keep showing the same things because their kids are getting older and old. Like they'll go from 8 to 10, and then they'll never have seen it, so they can just keep showing it. And I can keep getting residuals, which is perfectly okay, even though they get smaller and smaller. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, okay. Another important note on you know, creative production and development is kind of like how the industry takes its cues from society. So like, this is a great question. When we're at war, what kind of movies are made?
Happy movies. That happened in World War II.
Superhero
They wanted
movies.
to forget reality. So
Yeah.
they did this alternative to be happy.
Yes, it's very good. Yeah, so basically, this last time around, you can see the resurgence of the superhero, you know, and then bringing the comics to life and making people feel invincible, you know, and I feel like that is certainly a trend on the feature side. On the TV side, it seems like they take their cues more directly from society. So sometimes ripping off stories straight from the headlines, like, you know, Law and Order, or like a true crime from on Lifetime, you know. But you know, another example, like I lived through September 11th. I was in New York City at the time. It was a terrifying experience. But you know, I came back to LA on train, believe it or not, because I would not fly. And we were just about to go into our 3rd season of Even Stevens, and I didn't want to fly. So I took a train cross country, and then when I got back there, they were auditioning for the new shows, the pilot season is what they call it. And all of the things were firemen and cop shows. Firemen and cop shows. That's all they had, that's all they wanted to do. Because I guess that's what society was talking about at the time. So I think with TV, it's a little more sensational versus the industry, the feature film industry, which is they're very different animals altogether. So now we're just moving to post-production, tying it up. You know, we see a difference in the trends during the post-production phase as well. I spoke a little bit before about funding and how it has to be contingent on certain factors. It's almost like the perfect storm, which is why the industry is just as paranoid as it is. But realistically, it's really funny. These factors are mostly celebrities and their international appeal. So like basically you could have a low-budget horror movie, but you have Pierce Brosnan. Does anyone know who Pierce Brosnan is? He was Bond a long, long time ago. And The Crown Affair, whatever he was in. I don't really even know him that well. All I know is that he's got an international appeal where you can get multi-million-dollar films like greenlit because he's one of the stars in it. And that's an interesting thing. I think I call that the Hasselhoff effect. This is very strange to me.
Jackie Chan.
Say the Jackie Chan. Yeah, I mean it's really interesting international appeal. But So yeah, and the other thing about the post-production now is that if you have the celebrities and you have certain other elements respective to the genre of the film, if it's horror movies, they want to see blood, boobs, and body count. Like that's like the 3 Bs, and then on top of that you need, a cheesy celebrity. So that I've come to understand, and it's not exactly how I would want to do business as a director or producer as I grow into that phase in my life. But yeah, you can pre-sell the distribution rights and use the money from that sale to fund going back to pre-production. So they're kind of all very linked together. So yeah, I'm not gonna let me see. I'm not gonna bore you with any more like numbers or figures. These are just facts that I've come to understand and dealing with executives and pitching executives from TV, film, creative, financial, and everything. The basic idea is that everything on TV is calculated, focus group tested, and pre-sold to advertisers. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the air. So I guess that still remains the same from the dawn of how people can make money in this industry. And hopefully, I think you guys will get now an understanding of my perspective, but also the current happening and perspective of what's going on in the world in LA.